Hey YouTubers, it's Valerie with Money Mindset Coach, and even know where I want to start with this. I have been watching Downton Abbey from the beginning to the end. There's even a movie I think they came out with that I don't think I've seen. So anyway, I'm going back through Downton Abbey, and it has just made me think about a lot of things that I haven't thought of for a long time. And I gotta tell you, I am 67 years old, and when I was growing up, what a gentleman was something that is so different than what it is now. I don't think that being a gentleman is something that is being handed down, taught, because it really does need to be taught. If it's not taught, because I remember my ex-husband, there were certain things that he would do, but there were other things that he didn't do. And I remember, because, like pulling the chair out, helping you, sit down and all that, because my dad would do that for my mom. But my ex-husband would never do that for me. And I said, why don't you do that? And he said, that wasn't something that my dad did. So he was looking to his dad to see what he was doing, and then he emulated that. But if his dad didn't do it, he didn't do it. And so these things are taught. They are taught and they are caught. But no, this watching Downton Abbey has made me think about the way things used to be, and how in some ways I wish that some of this stuff would come back, because there was a respect that men had for women and women had for men. And I think that in today's society, I think we are missing respect. We could all be more respectful for our president, for our elected leaders, our parents, the elderly in our neighborhood and in our towns. There's respect that's lacking. And I think if we had more of it, this world would be better. I know it would be. But these are just some of the things of when I was a girl growing up. This is a lot of these I expected and wanted when it came to the man in my life. Number one, physical protection. We are not as strong as men are. It's just obvious. They call us the weaker sex. I don't really like that term. I really don't like that at all. But facing facts, we are not as strong as men are. They are stronger than we are. So physical protection is very important, because when a woman has physical protection, either it be a son for his mother, a husband for his wife, a boyfriend for the girlfriend, all those ways, any relationship where there's a man and a woman, whatever the relationship is, knowing that son, that husband, that boyfriend will physically protect you. There is a safeness that a woman will feel when she knows she is physically protected. Some of those things are, and this is so, and I notice this when I'm walking with my boys. I kept trying trying to get this through to them, but I don't think it ever stuck. But walking on the curb side when you're walking on the street. The guy was supposed to walk on the outside. And I learned that as a girl, that when a guy does that, if there was a car that went by that splashed, it was supposed to hit him. It wasn't supposed to hit her. He was supposed to take that for her. If something happened, he was the one on the outside. He didn't expose her to the danger, because the street is the danger. So the guy is in between the street and the woman. Protection. That's what that is. Basically shielding the lady from passing carriages. I think this goes way back when the streets were not paved, when there were horses and horse crap on the floor, on the street. It could be a pretty nasty, dirty place, which streets are not like that now. But way back then, the women were wearing the long skirts and the whole bit, and it's like, you didn't want to get that messed up. Offering an arm, whether crossing the street or walking into a crowded room, he would offer his arm to steady and guide her, especially in heels and long dresses. A man was not supposed to let a woman struggle. He was there to help her, to be a steady hand, because that would be embarrassing to her if she tripped or if she fell. It's holding her up. It's steadying her. It's protecting her. Escorting at night. It was unthinkable for a woman to walk home alone in the dark. A gentleman always offered to escort or ensured she got home safely. Now, me and my boyfriend live, 76 miles apart. I left his house this morning at like 6:15 in the morning because I had to come back here and work today. Well, in those instances, the way that you do it in the 21st century is, if I am ever traveling to his place or back to mine, I text him so he knows when I left. I text him when I get here so he knows I got here, because that's the only thing that I can do. And so that's a protection. That is a protection that I appreciate, that he wants to know that I got home okay. It's very important to me. And so I appreciate that. Social protection. Defending her honor if someone insulted or disrespected a woman, especially his wife, his sister, his date, I would think his mother too. A gentleman was expected to step in firmly and often without hesitation to stand up for this woman. And in that way, she knows that he has her back, that he will be there to take up for her on her side. That's a wonderful, wonderful thing. Very sexy, actually. Guarding her reputation, he was careful about how he spoke of her or treated her in public. I mean, sometimes you can see couples that are treating each other terribly in public. And I mean, I've seen this with how kids are treated in Walmart or something. You hear the parent saying something horrible to this kid, and you're thinking, oh, if they're doing that in public, what must they be doing at home where nobody else is around. Something even as simple as being too familiar or suggestive could be considered a risk to her good name. So he took that seriously. Discretion. A true gentleman didn't gossip about his private relationships or boast about conquest. Protecting a woman's privacy was part of being trustworthy and respectful. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's like, how many times did a guy go out with a woman and make it sound like something happened that didn't? Well, he wasn't protecting her reputation at all by telling his buddies that something happened that didn't. He should be trying to protect her. And that's kind of gone away, actually. Financial and practical protection. Providing. The gentleman of the 1920s was raised to believe that it was his duty to financially provide for and shield his family or partner from hardship. Fixing things, carrying things, driving, everyday tasks like changing a tire, fixing a door, carrying heavy packages weren't seen as chores. They were acts of service that made him feel useful and needed. I think some guys are just bothered. Now, I have to say, my boyfriend, he's wonderful that way. If there's anything to be carried, he's carrying it. He doesn't want me to carry anything. And in my feeling is, well, I'm capable. I can carry something. But we go to Costco and there's a lot of heavy stuff to bring in. He brings it all in. I appreciate that. That's something that I really, really love about him, is that he does these things. He fixes things. He carries things. I have to say, when we're in the car, we're usually in his car. And if we're in his car, he's driving. And I think for a lot of years, women did drive. There were some women who didn't drive, who never did learn. But most women did. But when the two got into the car, the man was the one who was driving. It really wasn't the woman. It was the man. He was in charge and in control. So he obviously was the one behind the wheel. I don't think most men wanted to be driven around by a woman. And a woman obviously didn't want to be driving all the time. I was married to somebody for 30 years who didn't like to drive. Now, he was lucky from the standpoint that I do like to drive, but did I want to drive all the time? No, I didn't. I wanted him to drive. I didn't want to do all the driving. I felt that was the guy's job to do that. Emotional protection in his own way. Though emotional expression was more reserved, a gentleman was expected to be stable, dependable, and calm, especially during stressful situations. He might not have said, "I love you," easily, but he showed it in how he made sure those he cared about were safe, warm, and never lacked for what they needed. And I'm sorry, the women out there, if you have a husband who makes sure that you are cared about and that you are safe, warm, and never lacking for what you need, that's a pretty awesome thing. You know, maybe you don't have everything you want, but you have everything you need. What you might be missing, what I think I'm remembering or yearning for are those little things like holding the door, standing when you enter a room, helping with your coat, listening attentively, making sure that you feel seen, safe, and valued. My boyfriend will, you know, if we're going into a building or something, he'll open that door. I'm not opening it. He opens it and I walk through it. I like that. Standing when I enter a room, I can't think. Well, no, I take that back. When I first got married, we were going to a church, and I was so taken with the pastor and his wife, because when she entered the room, he stood up. If they were both sitting down and she went to get up, he stood. I was like, wow, I hadn't seen a guy do that, because I don't think my dad ever did that for my mom. I knew it was a thing. I knew that guys could do that, but I'd never actually seen a guy do that until then. And that was back in the 80s. Those qualities are not gone. They're just quieter in a world that's rushed, distracted, and less formal. Yeah. Rushed, is that good? No. Distracted? Definitely not. Less formal? I'm sorry, I think formal is actually good. You know? I hate it that there aren't restaurants anymore where the guy has to wear a tie, you know, where there's a certain dress code that's expected of people that go eat there. That doesn't exist anymore. Everybody wears jeans everywhere. People don't even try to look nice, you know. And I think it's really kind of sad. I had a little bit of an argument with my boyfriend last night before we went to the rehearsal dinner for his nephew's wedding. He has t-shirts that he has had for 20 years that have stains, rips. They're so stretched out they don't even fit him anymore. They look horrible. And this one particular t-shirt, he told me he was going to throw it away. He was wearing it. Well, he did end up ripping it in half and throwing it away. And I'm so glad about that. But what I was trying to make an impression last night is I had this really nice dress. I had my hair looking really good. He had bought brand new jeans, but had a nice button-down shirt on. He looked really nice. He is a handsome man. He definitely is. But I said to him, I said, why can't we look good for each other? I think too many times couples, after they've been together for a certain length of time, they don't care what they look like with each other. You know, maybe she quits wearing makeup. Maybe he wears the sloppy old t-shirts, you know. I'm sorry, but nobody sees you as much as your significant other. And I'll never forget, I will never forget, I mean, this is before I ever got married. There was a woman, when I was a hairdresser, there was a woman that was a client of mine that came in to get a haircut. She was a beautiful, beautiful woman. She had a teenage daughter, so I'm thinking she was probably around 40. I was in my 20s, so she seemed really kind of old to me. She doesn't now, but back then, you know, being in my 20s, I was so impressed with her. She was a very, very beautiful woman. And when she came in to get her hair cut, she always had something nice on. Her hair, even though she was coming to get her hair cut, her hair looked good. I loved that. I loved to look out into the waiting room and see her hair still looking really good and knowing that she was a customer of mine and that her hair still looked good even though she was coming to get another haircut. That made me feel good. But we got to talking, and she told me, she said that she was a stay-at-home mom and that a half an hour before her husband came home, she would, you know, look at herself, you know, depending on what she was doing that day, but she would make sure that she looked nice when he walked in the door. She'd make sure that her hair looked good. She'd put some makeup on. If she had been wearing certain clothes all day, she would change into something different and something nice. And she would start to make dinner. Now, what guy is not going to want to come home to a woman who looks great and is cooking dinner? What man isn't going to want to come home to that? You know? It's like, oh my gosh. So I took that to heart. I never forgot that conversation. Now, there was one hairdresser that I worked with when I lived down in Houston. And I'm sorry, but this was the extreme. And I don't think that it was a good idea. But I worked with a young woman, and she was a couple years younger than me, so we were both in our 20s. And her mother had been married to her father for 25 years. And every morning, she got up an hour before he did. And she would do her hair and do her makeup and then get back into bed. So when he woke up in the morning, she looked like makeup and hair. Well, that's unrealistic. And she did that. At that point in time, it had been 25 years she'd been doing that. Yeah, it's okay to be yourself. My boyfriend has seen me without my makeup. He has seen me when my hair has not been looking that great. Now, he loves me anyway. But I'm not saying that it can't be that way sometimes, but that should be the exception and not the rule. When I was growing up, I saw the Andy Griffith Show, Leave It to Beaver, Dick Van Dyke. I'm sorry, but if you saw Aunt Bee, June Cleaver, or Laura Petrie, and even in the 70s, if you saw Shirley Jones, Mrs. Partridge, Carol Brady, they all looked put together. They didn't look like slobs. Their hair was done. They look good. I just think that, I don't know. I think women, maybe I talked about it in another video about lost femininity. It's like, why not? Why not be a woman? Be a woman. Enjoy being a woman. I know I do. I do. It's like, I think it's been lost. I think it's been lost. And if we had respect for the men in our lives. One of the other things, and I don't think it was on my list, but it used to be to where a man, when he was talking with the guys, maybe there was some language being used. Well, then it got to the point to where men didn't care if they used that language around women. They used to apologize. They used to excuse themselves. They used to say, "Excuse my French," which I don't know why that even got into it. But they wouldn't talk that way around a woman, in the presence of a woman. You wouldn't talk like that. Now, women talk like that. Women are swearing and using the F word, and, I just have never been a fan. And I'm not saying that I haven't ever used a swear word. I have. The F word is not one of them. I don't like that word. My boys know I don't like that word. My boyfriend knows I don't like that word. Do I hear that word more than I would like to? Yeah. I'm sorry, but I just think that that's about as unladylike as a woman can be, is having that come out of her mouth. It doesn't make any woman attractive, I don't think. That's just my opinion. But there were just certain things that a man would not do around a woman. I think some of these things have been lost. Some of them still exist, but a lot of these things are older men who do them. My boyfriend, he's going to be 72. There's a certain generation of men who still do some of these things because they were taught. And it's getting less and less and less. The helping with the coat, putting it on, taking it off. My dad always helped my mom do that. Always. And when I was married, I swear, I think in church, I could have been sitting next to him in a straitjacket, and he wouldn't have even noticed that I was there and trying to get out of it. He was very unaware. And unaware is inattentive. And women like to feel attended to, that you're aware. It's like, one of the greatest scenes in the movie Hoosiers. If you've not seen Hoosiers, you need to watch it. It is my favorite Gene Hackman movie. God rest his soul. But, he has fallen in love with Barbara Hershey, and they have just won the state championship. And he's down on the floor, surrounded by people, reporters and everybody, and she's up in the stands, and she's looking at him, and he's talking to this one, talking to that one. I get emotional talking about this. He looks up into the stands and he finds her. And they see each other. Now, what did that say to her? That said to her, in the midst of all this chaos that's going on around me, I see you. I know you're there. And that's all she needed. Now, when he looked up there, what if she hadn't been looking at him? What if she'd been talking to somebody, turning around, getting something out of her purse? Back then there were no cell phones. What if she was sitting there on her cell phone? But no, he looked up there and saw her with her eyes intent on him. Oh my gosh. That scene said so much with no words at all. Because that was love, that was attention, that was respect, that was all those things. I love that movie, but that is my favorite scene, and I cry every time that scene plays. And I have seen that movie 10 times. I've seen that movie so many times, and I love that movie, and I will watch that movie over and over and over again, usually about every year. I like to watch that movie. But that said so much. And that's why as couples, we need to remember that those little things mean way more than the big things. It's those little tiny things that say, I see you, I haven't forgotten about you, I know you're there, and I care about you. That is all, I swear, that is all a woman needs to know. All. You know? And when you have a man that treats you like that, you don't want to go anywhere. You want to be there forever. Absolutely. Gosh, I'm glad I remembered that scene. I am glad I remembered that because it is fabulous. Watch the movie Hoosiers. If you have not seen it, watch it. If you haven't seen it in a long time, watch it again and watch that scene. It's near the end, but it is fabulous. So, I hope you found value from this video. I mean, I feel really strongly about some of these things that we've lost. I just, you know, sometimes I think my heart aches over some of these things that I feel are just gone. And you know, if men realized, if they started treating their women like that, because you know, when the guy opens the door for you, he is not saying you are incapable of opening the door. Of course, you're strong enough. You can open the door yourself. It is respect. It's honor. That is why a guy did it. It's a thing where he said, I care about you. I'm going to open this door for you. I think it's a wonderful thing. And I think we as women should let the men in our lives do some of those things. Let's have a revival of the gentleman. And you know what? When gentlemen act like gentlemen, ladies act like ladies. And that is not a bad thing. That is not a bad thing. There would be mutual respect. mutual love, mutual admiration, mutual honor. You have those things. I think as a team, you would be unbeatable, unstoppable, if you felt that way about each other and you treated each other that way. Why would either one of you want to leave? And I just think that there's so many couples, they just lose sight. They lose sight of some of those wonderful, wonderful ways of treating each other that they could do. And it would speak volumes to the person. It would. Absolutely. So I hope that I've left you with some things to think about. If you've gotten value, please comment. Do any of you feel that way too? Like some of these things have been lost? What does your significant other do as far as manners and being a gentleman? If there's any men out there that are watching this, what do you do? What were you taught? I would love to hear that. And if you haven't subscribed, consider that. And hitting that notification bell, because then when there's a new video, you'll know it and you won't miss it. So anyway, like I always say, use it up, wear it out, make it do or do without. And until next time, see you then. Bye.